The most famous creepypasta characters that you know are all plagued by problems that make them feel very uninspired, lazy, and honestly just borderline boring. Having been a part of the creepypasta community for 4.5 years, and finally breaking free to pursue things I actually enjoy, I can finally give my correct criticism and thoughts on these sort of things. I previously held back from doing so in order to seem kinder and just less cynical in general. But since my last video giving criticism on these sort of things did so well, I figured now is the time I can finally speak up and give my personal criticisms on a lot of these creepypasta characters. Now keep in mind, this video is not aimed at all towards any person who made these stories or characters. I really want to emphasize this point, as it could very easily be lost in the hype of disliking the character. So remember, separate the fiction from the people. And now that's out of the way, let's discuss the problem with a lot of these characters. We're going to break it down into 5 different categories. This is because despite all of these being characters from creepypastas, they are different with their issues. But let's begin with category 1. Category 1 is the serial killers who become insane because of bullying or mental health issues. You know these guys. They are your Nina the Killers, Jeff the Killers, the Bloody Painters, etc. My main issue with these kind of characters is that they are never really fully explored with their mental health. They shift between them being a struggling person to a maniacal slasher way too quickly. It is way too sudden and jarring for me to enjoy. I wish we would have spent more time with these characters fighting with their sanity, especially with Jeff. He discovers the fact that he enjoys inflicting pain on other people, but it just goes right away with him deciding that killing people is okay. Jeff should know right from wrong. It's such a shame that they never explored his mind battling with these thoughts, and it would have made for a much more interesting story, with Jeff slowly becoming more and more evil the more the bullies pick on him and his brother. There really should have been more build-up for it, but this can also apply to the likes of the Bloody Painter as well. They do a good job establishing him at the start, but I wish they could have delved more into his childhood as a kid. The death of his friend could have led to much more storytelling. We could have seen Helen grow up and struggle with his grief, which then could have led to him being a killer. But I digress. These kinds of characters are just oversaturated, blatantly copy/knock off other creepypastas. I'm looking at you, Nina the Killer. And overall, part of the problem in my opinion. Category 2. The characters who are canonically SA'd for the sake of sympathy points, or for why they kill. This is going to be a relatively brief segment, as thankfully, not many creepypastas fall under this category. But yes, this is true. There really are creepypastas which use disgusting actions such as that kind of assault, simply for either shock value or for sympathy. Rule number 1 when it comes to writing creepypastas: never do that stuff. It should be common sense that you need to write with some kind of grace, even in horror. So using something so disgusting and traumatic simply as a crutch for a bad story writing is just unforgivable in my opinion, and nobody should ever do anything like that again. I'm not saying you can't write a story featuring that kind of stuff. Many horror stories and movies that me and you enjoy both sometimes feature that stuff as well, and you can write a good story with it. But they have to have a good story and use it to explain things rather than just for sympathy or for a stupid motive. So that's the difference there, guys. Category 3. Edgy My Little Pony characters whose sole purpose is just to be edgy without a story. This one shouldn't come as a surprise to many of you, but yes, this is still a thing, and you all should know that it is 100% part of the problem. This category covers stories like Cupcakes, Rainbow Factory, Rocket to Insanity, stories like that, Well, calling Cupcakes a natural story is a stretch, but you get the point. Stories which randomly decide to pluck one character from a series and turn them into a psychopathic maniac, and never explain why or how it happened. What was the explanation in Cupcakes? Oh Dashi, your number came up, I don't make the rules. Okay then, let's play ball. Pinky, what are your rules in the question? How do the rules come out? How do you start killing? Why did you start killing? How do you choose a number? And why did you decide to bake them into treats and steal their cutie marks? Why did you choose to prolong the suffering of your victims? There's literally zero answers that Cupcakes give, and it's painfully stupid. It happens because, pony kill pony. If you're going to write a killer, you have to give them, you know, any motive. Remember that, writers. Category 4. The protagonist of the stories that make unrealistic and silly choices. Now to briefly switch gears, the main characters who aren't the killers do not get off this critique scot-free either. The biggest examples of these are Mitch from Eyeless Jack, Tom from Sonic EXE, and lastly, Gil and Noah from the Tails Doll Curse. This trope personally drives me up a wall. We aren't asking for protagonists on the level of Light Yagami's in terms of intelligence, but we at least expect them to have some semblance of common sense. Let's start with Tom. He receives a letter from his friend Kyle, who had been missing for 2 weeks. He could tell that his friend was panicked and afraid. The letter comes with a CD of Sonic 1. Kyle specifically tells him to destroy the CD, or else something would come for him. He again specifically tells Tom not to play it. Now Tom here has a few options. He could either return the mail to wherever it came from, turn it over to the police, which, may I add, he should have done realistically from the start if it has any evidence of Kyle being alive. He could just ignore the letter, and lastly, he could do what Kyle said and just destroy it. But no. Going against all odds and common sense, he chooses to play the mysterious, suspicious-looking game. Not to mention when he loads the damn thing, the second when it turns all corrupted on the file saving screen, he should have turned it off and done one of the choices I brought up earlier. Sonic EXE could have very easily been prevented from happening. I know obviously we need it to happen for the sake of the story, but still, it's way too forced for my liking. Now Mitch is just as bad, mainly from one choice. After Eyeless Jack takes out his brother, he just leaves his remains in the house without telling anyone, not mentioning anything to the cops, an ambulance, a morgue, literally nobody. Now this one really annoys me, because you would think after everything he has been through with evading Jack, he would finally know to inform the authorities. He had plenty of evidence of a break-in and a scuffle, plus the dead body of his brother, so clearly he has a lot to pin on Jack. So I don't know why he didn't go to the police with what he found. And finally, let's go to Gil and Noah. They make silly choices throughout the whole story of the Tails Doll Curse, starting with them not immediately returning or throwing out their copy of Sonic R when the scary imagery is shown. Seeing Sonic being violently attacked with a screaming floating doll should literally make anybody turn the thing off. But we can all agree what the single worst choice they made was. Bringing a blood-covered doll of the character that was just haunting them into the game they were literally playing. First off, who does that? Even if the main characters aren't fully grown adults, if I was, say, 14, I would know that anything covered in blood equals bad. So yeah, Gil and Noah have no excuse for taking in the Tails doll. Not to mention, they play the game again, even after all of the horrific imagery and the doll that showed up. There is no justifying this. It's not realistic, even for Creepypasta standards. So yeah, this is a horrible thing I hate seeing in stories. And I hope that no Creepypasta writers watching this repeats these mistakes or includes them in retakes, because all it's going to do is make your story look bad. And finally, for category 5, characters from a lost episode or a haunted game coming into real life. I'm also going to keep this relatively brief. I'm not referring to, say, the characters appearing as a hallucination or as a dream. That's completely fine and good. But it's when they literally appear. This includes Sonic.exe. Shocker is in 2 categories. It goes to show how garbage the story is. Rap Rats, VR from Pokemon Dead Channel, etc. Listen guys, this stuff does not make your story look more creepy, scary, or more cool. It makes the reader lose all sense of being invested within the story. Again, if you want the character to be involved with stuff outside of the game or the episode, have them appear as a hallucination or as a dream. Because let's be honest, the Sonic plushie at the end of Sonic EXE, what exactly is it gonna do? It's literally a plushie that's a fraction of the size of a person. Think logically with this stuff, people. So yeah, when writing a lost episode or a haunted game, do not have them come out of the TV, the gaming console, etc. All it will do is make your story worse. But before we close off this video, an honourable mention goes out to Crybaby Lane. Yeah, the entire story is a problem with the Creepypasta community. But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you want me to, I will make a video discussing some good things to do. I didn't expect this, but it kind of feels like I'm passing on my knowledge of stuff, like I'm some kind of mentor. I just like writing stories and I want to see you guys write the best that you can do. So thanks again for watching. I hope you learned something from these tips. Happy writing, and I will see you in the next video. Take care, my dorks.